Welcome to the Enhanced Living Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Kruger. I believe that we all have within us the power to be everything that we are meant to be and so much more. This show is a weekly dose of practical and spiritual principles, strategies, tips, and ideas to help you grow into the best version of yourself. Here's to becoming exactly who you were meant to become. I've been called a human Swiss Army knife because I'm a TV host, inspirational speaker and coach, live event MC and DJ, certified yoga and Ayurveda teacher, functional fitness enthusiast, author, husband, and dad with a voracious appetite for knowledge, and I'll be sharing real talks with successful people from all walks of life, spiritual teachers and masters, and experts in many different fields. I'll also share my own perspective that I've gained from over 20 years of diligent meditation and spiritual work so we can all experience enhanced living. Are you ready to evolve? Let's do this. Happy Friday and welcome back to Enhanced Living. So with the holidays coming up, and of course we are still in the throes of pandemic world, I thought I'd bring Cherise back on the show because we wanted to talk about how best to deal with family during the holidays. Now, of course, some people are going to get together in small gatherings and hang out with their families in person, while hopefully many more people will be doing things virtually over Zoom and possibly over FaceTime or whatnot. So I just thought that this could be a very good opportunity to basically give a little bit of advice on how we handle our interactions with family and how to deal with certain things. Because, of course, politically things are quite charged. And, well, in general, dealing with family, it can be quite charged. In fact, I know that most people have issues when it comes to dealing with their families over the holidays. And this is in regular times versus what we're going through right now. So, Cherise, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. This is such a fun topic, and you never know who you're going to run into over the holidays, or, now that you're doing Zoom interactions, you can see relatives maybe that you haven't seen in a long time.
It's true. And I think that it's one of those things where sometimes we're put in the position where we have to be around relatives that we really don't necessarily want to be around. Like your drunk uncle who makes really inappropriate comments. Not yours. I'm saying the perennial drunk uncle.
Yeah.
They've done skits about him on SNL. The people who are just kind of set in their ways and old and not old, but I mean, yeah, why not? And just kind of inappropriate, and they don't care what they say or how it comes out or who it affects. So how do we deal with these people? We came up with basically 6 ways or 6 things that you have to try to master or I don't even want to say master, but I want to say more like just kind of keep these things in mind and try to implement these things while you're dealing with family during the holidays. This applies to Thanksgiving. It applies to Christmas. It applies to Hanukkah, whatever you're going through.
Yes.
So the first thing is take a deep breath. Now, I find that this one is so helpful whenever you're dealing with anything, because just stopping to take a breath gives you a little bit of space to put things into perspective.
Yes. And the next part after that deep breath, I recommend this before, right before you're going to see family or before you're going to get on a Zoom call, is to release out a sound out your mouth, to release any emotions, because you don't know if you're walking into this holding on to something from yesterday or from the morning or whatever, and just making a nice big sound, letting it out and doing a few of those.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a really good point, which is that sometimes you don't know if you're holding on to something that has nothing to do with the situation you're walking into. Vice versa, your family members might be holding on to something that has nothing to do with you, and that's completely coloring their perspective. So
Absolutely.
The first thing, if things get a little bit wonky, just try to not react in that moment and just take a deep breath. Now, if you're on Zoom, God bless you, just mute yourself, turn off video, and scream into a pillow.
That's always a great option.
Yeah. For Zoom, I think that's good. So number 1 is take a deep breath. Number 2, let's try to remember that these are family members, and whether you like them or not, you love them, right? Because that's what the familial bond is that you love these people. So try to remember that you love these people, which can be hard at times, can't it?
Yeah, because when you're in a family situation, you know that person for everything that they've been through, or just every kind of interaction that you've had, and you just, you never know when something might get triggered or come up for you. So just remember, I love this person. That's a great little mantra to have.
Yeah, because if you remember, you know what, I love this person, then it instantly kind of softens the edges and makes it a little bit more, I want to say, kind of palatable to just kind of go, okay, all right, let me take a deep breath. It kind of brings you back to number one. You remember you love them, you take a deep breath. Now, again, if you're virtual, God bless you. Look, at the end of the day, just turn off video, mute yourself, and scream into a pillow.
And you can always just say you're having technical issues. It's the great thing about Zoom.
Yeah, that is definitely a good thing too. Yeah, maybe freeze yourself real quick while you're sneakily hitting the mute button and then sneakily turning off the video. And maybe you can have a pre-planned background that says technical difficulties, please stand by. I don't know.
With elves on it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely do that because with Zoom, it's all crazy anyhow.
Yes.
You could just duck and scream into a pillow. Okay, so that's the first two.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to number 3, which I believe is arguably one of the toughest things to do. But if you can do it, it will open up your eyes and open up your mind and really kind of bring some compassion in, which is try to understand their perspective.
Yes.
So often we come to things from our own perspective. We see things from our own lens. We see things based on our own personal experiences. But your drunk Uncle Jack or whatever, I don't know where that came from, but whatever, that guy may have seen crazy things in his life and he might have been at the hands of God knows what. And if you can just try to have a little bit of empathy and see things from his perspective, you might understand why he's saying what he's saying. And even better, you might be able to kind of talk to him about how to change his mind towards the way you see things, which might be more progressive or less. Who knows? I don't know this isn't about what side of the fence you're on. This is about how to deal with families so you don't cause nuclear World War III at home.
And I want to add something. I was listening to a friend's podcast. You might have listened to this one too, The Right Questions with Bridget and Todd. And Todd was mentioning, I loved this so much. And it's so simple and obvious. Like when you are communicating with somebody, go into it thinking, I don't have all the answers. I'm not completely full on this topic because we're only coming from our perspective and we can only see out of our lens. So if you walk into it like, yes, I have these ideas or opinions, but I don't know what the other person is bringing to the table. And it doesn't mean that you have to agree or even like what they're saying, but just giving them the opportunity to speak. Because I think a lot of times you get into a situation where you're so opinionated or you have such strong feelings that you're not allowing the other person to even get a word in. So I just thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, and you bring up asking the right questions too. I mean, really what it comes down to is sometimes when someone states something, you don't necessarily fully have that full picture. So it helps to just literally ask like, hey, so what do you mean by that exactly? Can you elaborate?
Mm-hmm.
And when they elaborate, that might actually change your perspective. So that'll help you kind of get into their shoes a little bit more and see things from a different perspective and a different point of view.
Or at least you guys will both feel like you both have been heard, which I think is important.
Yes. Now, if you're on Zoom or any other kind of virtual platform, the tip for this really is maybe walk away, just duck off camera for half a second, have a punching bag ready to go and let loose on that thing. If you're if you're super frustrated, I don't know. I'm teasing. Just mute yourself, turn off video, and scream into a pillow. I find that's it's super effective. I know that's been the same advice for the first 3, but
another effective thing to do is to have a chi bag. I don't know if anyone has heard of that, but it's just literally like a nice bag, like a pretty something or other bag that you put like mung beans or any kind of small beans in or lentils, and you can literally like punch into the bag, and it's amazing because you can release so much energy. And this is, of course, assuming that you're going to run into somebody that you have issues with, because Adam and I are really lucky. We actually have a lot of family members that we see eye to eye and we get along really well with, and hopefully you do too.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you're not going to get along with everybody, but you can tolerate everybody, or not everybody, but you can at least tolerate everyone in your family, hopefully. So number 1 is take a deep breath. Number 2, remember you love these people. Number 3, try to understand their perspective. 1 through 3 on Zoom is literally just mute, take your video off, and just scream at something, because it'll release the energy and you won't scream at the person. I know that it's coming off kind of comedic as far as the Zoom thing goes, but let's be honest. The whole Zoom thing is just, it's ridiculous, honestly.
It's comedic.
Yeah, it truly is. So number 4, let's say you run into a topic of conversation that you really are just supercharged about. You know that you're completely divided on this. There's no way they're going to see your side of it. There's no way you're going to see their side of it. You literally have to simply state right here, that you'd rather not discuss this. Just say, look, I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about this. And be firm on that.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is in my family, we actually have created like a catchphrase that we use. Instead of saying, I'd rather not talk about this, we say, oh, did you guys just see that blimp? Or how about that blimp? You know, like up in the air, like it's just totally random.
Can we just talk about how that came up? Because we were actually on a road trip a long time ago, not a road trip. We were driving into San Francisco, and there was a conversation that was going on in the car that Cherise wanted to end because I don't even remember what the conversation was. Her brother was in the car with us. I don't even think Jacob was born yet. But we were driving and something was going on, and it was starting to get a little bit heated. And there literally was a blimp outside the car in the sky going overhead. And your dad, I think it was, he was like, hey, look at the blimp outside. Did you guys see the blimp? And from that point on, it just turned into our way to change the topic of conversation and kind of stop. But let's be practical here. Sometimes talking about things doesn't help. It makes it worse. So just say, hey, look, you know what? I don't want to discuss this anymore. And so it's a very powerful thing. Hey, you know what? Let's just not talk about this. Let's change the subject. And if you're on Zoom, again, I mean, honestly, just you could literally just not respond and let the conversation kind of evolve around you. If you've ever been on a Zoom call, you can be part of the conversation, the center of it, or mostly you're just observing anyway. So you can just kind of stop and you can turn your volume down and not listen to whatever they're saying, just to remove yourself for your own personal sanity.
That's true. Or if you feel like you do need to say something, this is one of my favorites from Wayne Dyer. He used to say, like, if it was directly relating to his relatives, actually. Like they would say something and they had such differing opinions, and he would just listen, let them talk, and then just say, I never thought of it that way. And then just move on to the next thing. It's like you don't have to validate it and say that you agree with it or anything. You can just kind of move past it.
Yeah. And if you're a type A personality like me, a bit of a bulldog, that can be difficult at times. But again, just, you know what? I don't want to talk about it. And then you can think whatever you want in your head. Again, scream into a pillow. I find that that's really cathartic and helpful. So pillows are a big portion of this holiday thing. Maybe bring one with you. I have no idea. So let's go 1 through 4 at this point. Take a deep breath. Remember you love these people. Try to understand their perspective. Simply state that you'd rather not discuss this at this moment in time. Moving on to number 5, which is to maintain boundaries. Now, I think this one is actually applicable to everything in life. Maintaining boundaries is so important because it just is. So many people don't maintain their boundaries. And so this is something as simple as when you say, hey, I don't want to discuss this right now. If they keep going, just shut it down. Do not respond. Say, look, I already said what I wanted to say about it. I'm not talking about this right now. And be respectful, of course, but that's how you maintain boundaries. So I think that's a super important one. It's a really quick one. It's just about standing firm in your convictions and making sure that you do not allow something to happen that you're just not comfortable with.
Yes. And I want to add to that. You can also, if it is going to be a Zoom get together, or even if it's going to be with your family and it's a safe situation where you're all getting together in person, beforehand, you can set the boundaries. You can say, I just want to leave this off the table. And it made me think of with late night shows, when a guest comes on the show, they have a briefing beforehand and they set boundaries. The guest sets boundaries with the host, like, I will not be discussing this. And it's kind of like you need to do that. And with certain family members, you need to maybe even say it a couple times before you go, depending on what their personality is. But there's nothing wrong with that, because that's respecting yourself and in turn respecting everybody else, because it's not going to get you to a place where you feel like you're out of sorts or you say something that's not kind.
Yes. And if you are in a Zoom meeting and people are constantly encroaching and surpassing your boundaries, just leave the Zoom meeting. Literally, you can just end meeting. Walk away. No big deal. And it's one of those things where you can just say, oh, my internet died or whatever. That's the beautiful thing about technology, is that, hey, it works until it doesn't. So there's always that kind way to kind of sort of get out of it, which leads me to the sixth and final thing, which is try to be kind instead of being right. And this is another Wayne Dyer quote. You always have the choice to be right or kind. Sometimes you can be both. But at the end of the day, if you have to choose between being right and being kind, always choose kindness, because you'll never regret being kind, but you may regret being rude or mean and putting someone in their place because you just had to be right. It's so important to just show kindness. Think to yourself, a good thing that I use personally, and I know Cherise can A, vouch for this, and B, weigh in on it and agree with, which is, if it's not going to matter when you're 99, shouldn't matter now. Like if it's not going to be a big deal in 100 years from now or 10 years from now, shouldn't be a big deal right now. In other words, it's all mostly small potatoes. Like most of the things are not that important. So you can just be the bigger person and let it go. Don't be petty.
Yeah. And also remember that when you're choosing to be kind, that's actually a strength. You're choosing strength over weakness because it's so easy to blurt out or lose your temper. But it's a lot harder sometimes to just remain calm and stay kind. And that's a powerful thing. And especially for someone like Adam, who's a bulldog, I'm always so proud of him when he chooses to take a step back, take a breath and be kind, because it's a little bit harder for you than it is for me because of your fire energy, your pitta energy that you have. And so look at it almost as like a challenge for yourself. Like, hey, can I do this? Can I be stronger than I think I can be? And can I move to the next level? I think it's for type A people too. It's kind of like compete, give yourself a little competition.
Yeah. And I mean, just to kind of piggyback on that, it is tough for me when someone's talking about something or they have views that are possibly beating up on the people who need to be stood up for, people who need defending. I have no tolerance for people being picked on, for minorities being subjugated. I don't have any tolerance for that. To me, I believe in equality and fairness and equity. And I really it boils my blood when people are being taken advantage of. And so that's when my fire energy really comes out and I sometimes lose it. And so sometimes it's about being kind to achieve your goals. And it's about really kind of taking that breath because as my mom always used to say, you get a lot more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. I don't know why you'd want flies, but the fact of the matter is that the saying is right. You can still achieve your goals while being kind. It's always important to do that. And so in the case of a Zoom meeting, if things are going crazy and you have to choose kindness, you know what? Leave the Zoom meeting, but say goodbye and tell them you love them first. And that's how you're being kind. Just like, hey guys, you know what? I'm sorry. Something's come up. I have to go. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. So,
or you also could, if you're feeling like you just need a few minutes on your own, just excuse yourself to the restroom, or you could just say, I have to take care of something on the stove or whatever, and then just come back in when you feel ready.
Well, the beauty of a Zoom meeting is you can literally just type BRB in the chat and walk away for a little while. So there is some benefit to that. I mean, to be perfectly fair, I've reached my limit of Zoom meetings that are not work related at this point because I've just hit the Zoom fatigue personally. It's hard. I miss being in person. But just to wrap up our how to deal with family during the holidays and their virtual equivalents, let's just list 1 to 6. These are the 6 things that we are recommending. 1, take a deep breath. 2, remember that you love these people. 3, try to understand their perspective. 4, simply state that you'd rather not discuss whatever topic is inflaming the situation. 5, maintain your boundaries. So they're kind of related, 4 and 5. And 6, try to be kind instead of being right. With that being said, happy holidays. Please be safe out there. And that's it. You know, let's bring in a better world by being the change that we want to see happen.
Yes, spreading love and kindness and cheer. Sending love to you all.
Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful Friday and happy holidays. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Enhanced Living Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, feel free to reach me directly at enhancedliving.net. Thanks for listening.